Hey there, I'm Steve.
And I'm Jen.
And we are The Road Less Traveled. And today we are going to talk to you about what it costs to live full-time in an RV. Now, keep in mind that we are a family of 4 with a dog. So if you're thinking about full-time RV living, your budget might be a little different than ours. But we want to hit some of the key topics that we think are very relevant to RV living that people might be curious about. And these are things that we were curious about before we left. So we're going to start off talking about the big one, which is campground fees. Now, Jen has compiled some notes on that, so I'm going to let her lead this one.
All right, so I'm going to cut straight to the chase, and I'm going to tell you what we paid and then give you a few caveats and tips. So we paid $42 a night on average for our campgrounds, caveat coming, and that boils down to about $1,260 a month. Here's the caveat. We did not spend every night in a campground. We actually had 1 month where we boondocked 11 days, which you can watch that video in a prior video all about boondocking. But 11 days that offsets us, zero cost. And so that's why our number was a little bit low. Now, the nightly range for campgrounds can go as low as $20 that we found for full hookups up to $86 is what we paid on the high end. And that was for West Glacier KOA, but it can go much higher. It can go, beyond $100 a night, well beyond $100 a night. So there's the range. You can see from $20 to $86. There's quite a range. And then you really need to just determine if you want to try to save money or splurge. I'll give you an example in just a minute, but do you have anything else to add to that?
When I just use my intuition and try to think about, on average what it feels like we pay. So she gave you the real facts and figures, but I generally say it's about $50 a night because some places it's cheaper, especially when you're traveling and you're in a smaller town. And some places are more expensive when you are at an RV resort in a location, for example, like Glacier National Park. It's way more expensive. Or if you decide to go down to Disney and Fort Wilderness, which we haven't been to yet, but I hear that's really expensive. So it really, really depends. And I generally just think like, okay, if we dry camp or boondock a night, we save about $50 a night.
Yeah, so the saving versus splurging, so when we drove from New Mexico to North Carolina and it was a one-night stop, I was really on the lookout for cheap spots. So that's where we found a $20 spot with full hookups, a $30 spot with full hookups, and then we did some harvest hosting along the way. And then as Steve said, if you want to splurge, we splurged at West Glacier KOA because it was our vacation. We felt like we wanted to. And it just depends. And I'd say $50 to $55 is probably the range. And I'll get into kind of how we fell on our budget, because when we first started out, we just randomly picked numbers with an educated guess. So it wasn't completely random. We were talking about $50 a night, and then we would dry camp at least once a week. And so that's how we figured it. And we were a little bit over budget from what we expected. Anything else to add, campgrounds?
I think that's it. Well, one more thing. I guess if you're thinking about doing it for yourself, there's a lot of different ways to do it. We have friends who pretty much only boondock, which means their campground fees are close to zero. And that can be done, but it does require a little bit more of an initial investment because you need the batteries to be able to support that. And you need an inverter to and probably some other things too.
Solar.
Solar, yeah. Just some things to basically get you started. This video isn't all about that, but if you really want to boondock, there are ways to do that more.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Steve said, everyone does it differently. We'll talk in a future video about ways to save. But when we were first starting out, we just needed a campground. Getting to a campground and figuring out how to hook up sewer was hard enough. We didn't need any more complication. Mm-hmm. So if you're watching this, just think if you're going to go out full time, then you just want the easiest thing possible, right? And those are campgrounds. So that's why we wanted to cover campgrounds. Next is fuel. Do you want to take fuel?
Yeah, I'll take fuel. So we got $600. Is that a month?
Yeah, I think it was about 600.
Yeah, about $600 a month for fuel, which we did the calculations yesterday, and we actually traveled 7,500 miles in 4 months. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So that's quite a bit in terms of fuel. And I think that also includes depth. We don't have it all that well in our tracking, the difference between diesel and depth.
And propane for that matter. There could be some propane in
so
there.
it may not be a perfect number, but about $600. And again, that just depends on how much you travel, and how often you travel and how little you stay at places. So if you're like staying at a week at a time and then only going 3 hours, then your fuel is going to be way lower. But we were hustling pretty hard. We started off down south in Alabama in the summer, and we were really hot and humid, so we wanted to go north as quickly as possible. So we moved pretty quickly to get up towards Montana. So therefore we spent more fuel. But if you want to save on that, then obviously don't travel as much, plan longer stays, which I think we'll probably eventually do. But for now, we spent quite a bit. We actually spent more than we thought we would spend, because we didn't really think too much about how far and how quickly we were going, and then putting that together with the cost of what we expected the fuel to be. So we spent a little more on that, but again, it's variable, and that totally depends on what you want to do.
And we were fortunate too, because the fuel was much cheaper this time. Like when we were traveling in 2020, I mean, we got it as cheap as $1.99 a gallon. So that was really cheap. And I think it too, it's like compare it to what you were spending now currently if you're living in a house and you're commuting to work. It's Corona. I don't know if everyone's, but you may be staying at home, working from home, and then this would be an extra expense. But again, it's all that variability on how much you're going to travel. And we just traveled a lot in 2020. And I think we will probably tone it down a little bit in 2021.
We also only have one vehicle. So it's both of us traveling together. When we were both commuting 45 minutes to an hour every day, we had two cars, using up all that fuel.
Yeah, and everyone's different too. We've seen people that have two vehicles, so they still have two vehicles. Some people pull the rig, part of the family pulls the rig, and then part drives behind. We just have one truck, and so that cuts down on expenses right there. Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right, food. Let's talk food, okay? One of the misconceptions is that we can't cook in an RV, right? You've heard that, right?
Yeah. People do ask that question. Do we actually cook in an RV?
And the answer is yes. We cook all the time. The oven, not the greatest, but we make it work. So we have an oven, a stove, a microwave, the Blackstone outside. And so we cook almost all meals in the rig. A few things to consider. Groceries. I always spend too much on groceries. It's like, it's for some reason my Achilles heel. The same when we were in a house, right? I always spend too much on groceries. But sometimes when you're in like little towns, grocery stores are going to be more expensive, right? I remember there was one place we went to near Moab and everything was like, it's really expensive.
You just don't have as many options.
Yeah.
So if they don't have a Walmart, or as Jen likes to go to, Aldi.
My favorite is Aldi.
In that town, you're going to spend a little more. You're just going to have to go to where it is you can go, the only grocery store in town, and you're going to have to pay what it costs.
And two other things that has saved us money is one, when we travel, we pack a lunch. That saves a lot on going out to eat. So there are times that we're just like, forget it, I don't feel like packing a lunch, and we'll go out to eat on the way. But typically we always pack a lunch to travel. The other thing is when I'm buying groceries, I have noticed that if I go and I buy for the week, I spend a lot less. There's a fly on there. On the camera?
It's right on the lens. There's a fly right on the lens.
There's a literal fly. We just got done from going to a farm, and I think we're still carrying some of those flies. So going for the week, right? So you go for the week, you buy all the things that you need. When I've gotten into the pattern,
the fly's right back on the lens.
Fly! I thought I killed you all. Okay.
You probably want to buy a fly swatter.
Fly swatter.
That's something to invest in early.
That is number one on the list. It should be. when I found that I don't buy for the week and I'm like, oh, we'll just get it this next stop. And then, oh, we'll just get it to this next stop. It's kind of these onesies, twosies trips. Then I will spend a lot more money because I can rarely get out of the grocery store less than $60 each trip. And it just adds up immensely. So we kind of categorized ours into groceries as one budget item and then restaurants, another budget item. And we found that we were spending, like, we were pretty surprised by the restaurants, I have to say.
Surprised as
it was a little high. Higher because we don't eat out a lot, but here's the thing: when you eat out with a family of 4, you spend $50 minimum if you're going to a real restaurant. Like even a Subway can run us $25, so it can add up really quickly.
And what I think, in terms of what I think that we should do, and we've tried to do, is we spend that money on restaurants that we really want to go to. Like if we're in a new town and there's a specific restaurant we want to try, and like for example, when we're in New Mexico, we want to go out to a Mexican restaurant, then we spend there. But we try not to spend on food just because it's convenient. Like for example, like she said before, we pack our lunch on travel days, so we're not stopping and spending $25 on fast food that isn't healthy and isn't very good anyway. So I do find more occasions where I want to go out and eat because I want to just kind of feel the vibe of the town. So if you're budgeting for restaurants, I'd say go a little higher than maybe you would think, just for that reason, just because it's nice to splurge sometimes when you're out in a new town and try out the local food scene.
Yeah, I'd say that comparatively with our at-home budget, it's pretty much the same. So we didn't spend, I think it was like less than $400 a month, which we're looking at. It seems like a lot, but it's easy just to kind of spend that in no amount of time. But it's comparable to what we were doing at home, because we are careful when we go out to new towns not to overindulge in the restaurants. Fair to say?
Yep.
All right. Internet. Why don't you take the internet one?
Internet, we spend $85 a month for 400 gigs with a company called Bix Wireless, and our internet runs off of AT&T. Now, when you compare that to the sticks and bricks life we had cable internet, which was $75-$80 a month. Anyway, so it's pretty much like a wash. It's a little bit more. And we had to invest and buy a modem that was like $500. But besides that, it's pretty comparable, and we have decent internet. We are going to upgrade. We're going to get a roof antenna and see how that works, because sometimes when you are in remote locations, the internet isn't great. But I think even still with that, our monthly costs will still be the same. It could get a little higher if you really want to. I mean, you can spend a lot if you really absolutely desperately need internet and you need to be on multiple networks. One way that we've kind of dealt with that is, since our main internet runs on AT&T, our phones actually run on Verizon. So if we need to, in a pinch, we can use our phones as hotspots to get Verizon if AT&T isn't working.
And the thing with Verizon, they throttle you, so they greatly reduce your speeds at a certain point when you reach that threshold. And as Steve said, it depends on what you need. We have met some full-timers who still work, so their employer pays for some of it and they pay for some of it. And it can get pretty high depending on what your needs are. Luckily, this has worked for us. Although we needed a replacement because the way we treat our modem is ridiculous. Between it going from the truck to the rig, it's gotten broken. Not their fault, it's ours. Is there anything else on internet?
Nope.
All right, let's talk entertainment. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we had a line item for in our budget was entertainment. I wanted to go experience some of the local towns that we were going to visit, so I wanted to make sure that was just captured. And this could be anything from visiting a museum to going on the what was that little gondola? What was it called? The thing in Branson.
Zip line?
The zip line, thank you. For like doing a zip line with the kids. What else have we done on entertainment? Feels like it's like admission to things.
Yeah, you did the Country Music Hall of Fame.
But what we found is that we are actually below budget on this. Like I think when we created the first draft of the budget, I was like, well, let's budget like $500 for this. I really want to go experience things. Luckily, Steve talked me down, and we budgeted $250, and we actually were around $200 a month for entertainment.
We do a lot of hiking and stuff for entertainment, which is free.
And plus we do things like our Netflix is included in that entertainment budget, right? We have Netflix, and I think there's a few other kind of things that we have that are just automatic pays or automatic charges, like for kid stuff. So that's entertainment. And then just kind of put like, I don't know if we want to talk about like just kind of the things that you still have at home that may be less on the road, like hair. You can tell we don't spend a lot on our hair as much as I used to, at least. Clothes, you're limited in what you can bring in the rig, so you're not buying a ton of clothes, and you pretty much wear sweatshirts all the time. Mm-hmm. And then anything else in that bucket? Just kind of random stuff. I mean,
well, I guess one thing that we did mention, because we don't really pay for it, is TV. I don't know exactly how much it would cost or how to do the I know some campgrounds include cable, but our TV is basically all streaming, so that's really included in internet. And like she said, we have Netflix, and do we have Hulu still?
No, we ditched Hulu because we weren't using it.
We have Netflix and Prime. I think Netflix and YouTube are the two that we watch the most.
Yeah, so we've never tried to hook up cable in our rig, so that is one thing to
you need to watch another video for that.
Yeah, it ain't us. We're not going to help you there. I think there's always upgrades. So Steve mentioned upgrades that we want to make to the rig that we're not doing right now, but that we have on our list to do, and you're going to find that once you get in and kind of to experience it. So don't worry about when you're just getting started trying to do upgrades. Like just go out and experience and figure out what you actually need. But we've got a list of things that we want to do when we have the money for it.
And these are optional things, like things that we just want to do, like, and they do tie in financially, because we feel like if we upgrade some things now, we can spend less later. For example, the stock batteries that typically come with RVs are not that great. So we need to upgrade our batteries and just do some things so that we can dry camp and boondock for a longer period of time, and therefore save money in the end. But we do want to put some of that money up front to invest to be able to do that.
Yeah, same things with the 1,000 Trails memberships that we are going to get. Like, it's an investment up front, but yes, you'll get free camping later, so it makes sense. And there's always miscellaneous stuff. I mean, you know this. And Dad, if you're watching, it's the contingency that you've taught me to always budget in a little bit of extra. You know, we had to get the truck serviced. Stilton, our sweet dog, needs to go to the vet. He's got a hot spot, so there's a vet bill. There's pet food, those kind of things. But you had those at home anyway, right?
This is life stuff.
You know that. So we pretty much were over budget in all of these items with the exception of entertainment. But again, we were kind of just doing our best guess, and I recommend you put one at least together to have an idea of what you think it would be, and then track it and say, how are you doing? So we
use mint.com for our tracking, just in case you were wondering. It works pretty well. I like it.
It does. And there's things that get lost. You know, you're like, I think that was propane, or it's groceries at the gas station. I don't know what it was.
Don't try to be perfect.
It is what it is, right? So, anything else to add?
I don't think so. We do, I guess, just an overall comparison of sticks and bricks versus RV living. Overall, we spend, I think, significantly less in RV living than we did in sticks and bricks, mostly because of the mortgage and utilities that we had in sticks and bricks. And we do pay utilities now via campground fees because they have the electric and the water and the sewer and everything. But the mortgage of where we lived before in the big house was quite a bit more than our rig payment and campground fees and things like that. So,
did you just call it the big house?
The big house. It's 2,200 square feet. Oh, you mean like big house, big jail? Yeah. We didn't live in jail.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but we've never called our house the big house. I just wondered where that came from.
Compared to the RV, it's a big house.
Yes, anything is compared to a big house compared to this RV. And we do, there are tons of ways to save. So we'll do a future video on ways to save because that's what we're still navigating, and found several that can help you. So we hope this helped. This was in some of the comments on the YouTube channel that people wanted to hear about how much it actually costs. So we thought we'd give you some real numbers and what to expect. So I think that's it for now. I've got to take Stilton to the vet and kill some flies around this joint. So anything to add?
Yeah, so if you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified. And there's also a little bell. Hit the little bell so you'll be notified when we publish more videos in the future. And also check out some of our other videos. It should be around here somewhere on the screen. So thanks for watching.
Thanks.